Hey guys, it's time to Netflix and chill, and in this video today, I'm going to be showing you guys how I have my UI set up when I am tanking. A lot of you guys have been coming to my streams, and a lot of you guys on my other YouTube videos have been asking me a lot actually about, well, what add-ons do you use? How did you set up your UI? I like your UI, how did you do it? So we're going to be going over my UI setup for tanking. I have different UI setups for when I'm DPSing or healing, and I'll do those when more people requested, but for the most part, the most requested UI setup has been for my tanking. So the first, I'm going to go over the list of the add-ons I do have active. Some of these add-ons you don't see on the screen because they do demand you to be in combat or require the boss to do certain mechanics in trials or dungeons. For the first add-on, we have Action Duration Reminder, and we got a guest speaker, the Kagudi. We have Aim Synergy Tracker, AlphaGear, Bug Catcher, Codes Combaters, Combat Metrics, Cooldowns, Hodor Reflexes, just kind of ignore that one, and we do have Raid Buffs, Raidificator, Raid Notifier, and Untaunted. And all these add-ons do come into play here. I have no idea who aggroed this Kagudi, but all of these come into play here, as you'll see, as I'll show you with this world boss. Oh my goodness, go away. Okay, with this world boss, as you can see, the first thing most people notice on the stream is this box over here, the Raid Buffs box. It shows Morag, Alkosh, Crusher. I did make a video on this with one of my add-on of the week videos if you want to check those series out on my channel. Raid Buffs is basically an add-on made by Wheels. It can you can customize it. You can also have a preset. Are you tracking debuffs as a tank, healer, DPS? If you're tracking it as a tank, it typically tracks like Crusher, Alkosh, Engulfing Flames, or something like that. For the most part, I customize it to have the Morag tongue because sometimes I wear Morag for my trial groups. But the two primary debuffs I always track through Raid Buffs, no matter what, is Linebreaker and Crusher. And as for the list of things you can track, well, it's a lot of things. Minor Magical Steel, off balance immunity, to name a few. But that's pretty much it for Raid Buffs. And this is pretty much what I always have in mind when I'm looking at a boss. Okay, do they have Crusher on them? Do they have Linebreaker on them? And that goes into our next add-on I'm going to be talking about here, Aim Synergy Tracker. Basically tells you, okay, how much time do I have left until I can synergize a Harvest, an Orb, a Bone Shield, or whatever synergy you care to list or have listed on your UI. You can obviously list several different synergies like Purify, Conduit. Usually the main ones are Conduit, Harvest, Combustion / Blessed Shard, because those two skills share cooldown. Grave Robber most of the time. Really depends on what your group provides. And with this box, I can like look at my raid buffs and be like, okay, Alkosh is about to run out, and my eyes just kind of process the information. Okay, Harvest has 5 seconds left. The next synergy I'm gonna call for from a healer is Harvest. So it works like that. That's how I have my UI set up. And we have combat metrics down over here. And that's pretty much it. And if I go into a trial, there's gonna be like a Raidificator little box here that shows vitality, time, and score, and that's only active when you go into the trial. And other things that I can mention here, a lot of people actually ask about these two add-ons right here, the UI add-ons right here. The first one I want to talk about is AlphaGear. This icon you can get rid of, but for the most part you can use this icon to click open the thing, but I do have this key bound to a specific key. And also it does offer these little percentages under your weapon and your armor. The percentage under your armor indicates how much of your armor is broken. So right now we're at 98%, which means 96%, which means about 4% of our gear is broken. Not a big deal. And it even shows us how much gold we need. Right here, 33 gold to repair your armor. The percentage under our weapon slot right there, as we swap, is going to show us how much of a charge is left. So obviously you can also configure auto recharge through AlphaGear. I believe it says it right here. Yep, automatic weapon charge. So you don't really have to worry about that. It's just how I have my UI set up. The second thing is cooldowns. Now cooldowns, you see this Bloodspawn helmet. That applies to quite a bunch of sets like Symphony, Earthgore. As you can see the icon changes. This is basically used to track the cooldown of each monster set. As you can see, Earthgore, Bloodspawn, Symphony. I'll show you guys what is over here. And you can even track passives, other synergies specifically. So it sort of plays into the aim synergy tracker as well. It's really up to you if you want to use this or aim synergy tracker. I prefer aim synergy tracker. Sets, obviously we also have a bunch of other sets we can track by default or automatically if you want to choose it. And the next part of the setup is going to be LUI extended. This is probably the most common question I have regarding my UI setup when I'm tanking. Okay, we got rid of the boss. But just to show you guys what I mean with the raid buffs, that's Crusher. And as you can see, actually this is perfect, as you can see above the boss's health bar for LUI, there's all these like debuffs that the LUI extended add-on is tracking. You have the option of turning it off. Personally, I like having it on because sometimes there are fights where I don't really look at the raid buffs, especially like trash fights. The raid buffs doesn't track trash debuffs. So let's say there's a bunch of ghosts in front of me for a moment, and I proc Alkash by using a synergy in front of me. And I can just basically see the Alkash being tracked on each one of those. That's pretty much it. But yeah, LUI extended is the biggest part of my UI. A lot of people ask me, well, why don't you use default UI or just like Azora's or Bandits or AUI. I found quite a few issues for myself in terms of FPS with advanced UI, and I have less issues with LUI. As for Bandits and other UIs, I have not really tested those out. I just have always kind of preferred LUI. LUI is a pretty old and established add-on, so I've just kind of always stuck with LUI. And just to show you guys the settings I have on for LUI, I have unit frames module on, combat info module on, buffs and debuff module on. Everything else is pretty much off. I don't really need to see info panel, /commands, chat announcements, whatever. If you want, you can turn these on. Like, this is also one of the add-ons that can offer, like, seeing what your group picks up as well. Buffs and debuffs, again, you can have this on or off. I prefer hiding my player buffs because I really don't need to, see my buffs. I don't need to see if I'm a werewolf or a stage 2 vampire or how much food I have left, because other add-ons like Rain Notifier and stuff like that tell me, usually during the trial. I do hide target buffs because, again, you don't need to see what the target is. As a tank, you may need to sometimes see what debuffs are, but again, this is pretty much an option if you have things like raid buff. And you definitely want to hide ground buffs and debuffs. You don't really need to see that. Icon options, really whatever, it's up to you if you want to customize this. But for the most part, most of this stuff here is how I run it. And that's pretty much it. For combat info, we don't really, again, touch much. We just have this display ultimate value, display ultimate percentage. And as you can see, it does that. That kind of does conflict with the in-game tracker through combat, I believe. Like, ultimate number. So as you can see, there's no more conflict. There was like a number hidden behind the LUI. So you gotta also take the base game settings into mind when you do customize your LUI. Otherwise, we do have the unit frame section. Unlock custom frames basically means you can move things around. And I can move this around, I can move the raid frame or group frame around. A lot of people ask me, well, why do you have like 3 health bars for bosses? I just happen to have 3 health bars for bosses. This bar is pretty much only needed if you're gonna want to track debuffs on your target. And this bar is pretty useful for certain fights because on fights where there are multiple bosses like Vashai, Skin Ryan, Maw of Lorkhanj, or the Refabrication Committee with the 3 triplets in Veteran House of Fabrication, or Boss 1 in V-Half with the 100 Killers, where there's multiple bosses, this frame is really helpful because it displays all of their health bars, and then you can sort of, if you're a raid lead and you're a tank, you can sort of lead your group and let them know at what percentages to stop at, particularly for the V-Half bosses. And that's pretty much it for LUI. In terms of the group frames, I just have user ID enabled, and I don't really change much in terms. This is mostly all default, so you don't really have to do much work. You can play around with it as you'd like. And yeah, that's pretty much it. All the other add-ons you see here are gonna again show up during a fight. One thing I forgot to mention besides the ones that are going to pop up during the fight is Bug Catcher. I would definitely highly recommend installing Bug Catcher. There are a lot of times where you get this dialogue box that pops up during the fight. It's really annoying, and it's like blocking out everything visually. And Bug Catcher pretty much remedies that, although it does not remedy certain UI errors that may disable certain functions. So definitely always make sure your add-ons are not really conflicting with one another, and your add-ons are always up to date, because sometimes ZeniMax does change the API and so forth of this game. Another thing I forgot to mention earlier was Untaunted. Untaunted is phenomenal. It's probably my most favorite add-on out of all these, and it's because, let me turn this off. And it's because you can track as many targets as you want. So if I taunt this, you can see on the upper left here where I like to have it. It shows the countdown for how long my taunt is going to last for one particular target. And this is pretty insanely helpful, especially for ad-heavy boss fights, because sometimes you may need to re-taunt the ads depending on what kind of ad they are. And I'll show you again. See, as you can see, it keeps going. We got 2 targets, and we got 3 targets. This can go on for pretty much for almost a unlimited number of targets, although you will never come close to an unlimited amount of targets. But yeah, as you can see, that's pretty much my UI, and that's pretty much why I have my UI set up like this as a tank. If you guys have any further questions about my UI setup, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll try to answer them. And as always, thanks for enough and chilling. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys next time.